It is not our statement. In the New York Times, say, Your Honor, we're simply reporting what Washington Post said. And the Washington Post will say what NBC said. And NBC will say what the New York Times said, creating a circular loop of lies that it's impossible to fight against.
In this jaw-dropping segment, Patrick Bet-David and Tim Pool break down how the media manipulates stories, twists facts, and protects itself with shady legal shields. Patrick Bet-David raises powerful questions about why CNN and MSNBC haven't faced the same lawsuits as Fox, while Tim Pool explains exactly how the media avoids accountability by creating echo chambers and circular reporting. From the Dominion lawsuit to misleading headlines about Tucker Carlson, Patrick Bet-David and Tim Pool expose how the woke media machine keeps lying to the public and dodging the truth.
Fox is now paying, what, $787 to Dominion, whatever the number is. It's a big number. They're paying the biggest ever, 20% of their savings, $4 billion in the bank. They're paying $787. There's a lot of different stories. Why? Tim, all of these things that they got wrong on the left, Russia collusion, he did this. One after another, impeaching him twice, just trying to publicly humiliate him nonstop, right? The vaccine comes 2 days after election. Everything was timed in such a weird way to want to hurt the guy. If Fox is paying $787 and CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, all of these guys kept talking Russia, isn't that a case to sue them for fake news and make them do a similar thing that happened with Fox? And if yes, why don't they do it?
They're so much better at this than conservatives and the right. If you come out and you make a statement that is opinion about Donald Trump, what are you going to sue? We got Times v. Sullivan. You're not going to get anywhere. Fox News made statements about a massive multinational corporation. Well, a massive multinational corporation is going to fire back with all of their resources, and they're going to win.
You mean Dominion in this
Dominion,
case? Yes.
Right. And not to mention, I think...
And there's also the Smartmatic lawsuit that's happening right behind that, on the heels of that.
These Fox personalities who came out and made these claims or pushed them or brought people on, these are fact statements about companies that had limited basis in reality. Right? Limited in that they'll take a morsel of truth, they'll stretch it out. I think Fox was interested in fanning the flames of their base to tell this story, and it backfires. You get a similar thing with CNN and MSNBC, but these people are very clever in how they do it and how they've always done it. Selectively editing a video and targeting Donald Trump. Okay, Donald Trump as an individual is going to have a lot harder of a time suing 17 news organizations, but here's the best part. Fox as the only news organization or the principal news organization that was having these conversations about Dominion puts them in a particularly weak state. There was a story that NBC News wrote about me that was fabricated. They then deleted the source from the article. However, too late. Several other articles copied the story and reposted it, creating a circular news reference where, hey, look, man, we didn't say it. We reported that news organization A said it. You can't sue us. Then, and they'll say it's a fact statement. If I file a lawsuit against them, it's going to cost me $100,000 for just launching the suit against all these different organizations, 17 of them. And then all they have to do is say, Your Honor, we are simply reporting what the New York Times said. It is not our statement. In the New York Times, say, Your Honor, we're simply reporting what Washington Post said. And the Washington Post will say what NBC said. And NBC will say what the New York Times said, creating a circular loop of lies that it's impossible to fight against.
Are you using it as a metaphor? As basically that's what happened if Trump tried to do a lawsuit against the mainstream media, they would basically do exactly what you just said?
The gist of it gets more complicated. It'll come down to individual circumstance. I'll give you one example of right now Tucker Carlson, what CNN did. They're very clever, these people. Tucker Carlson has that viral text message where he said, this is not how white men fight. The text message was, in its entirety, Tucker Carlson saying he was watching a video of a guy being beaten and he found himself cheering for it until he realized it's a horrible thing to think. People shouldn't think these things, and that I don't want to be this. CNN did a very clever thing where they took the first half, which sounds very, very horrible, put it at the top of the article, filled the rest of the article with regurgitated facts about Dominion, the lawsuit, statements that nobody wants to reread for the 18th time, and then the conclusion of Tucker's statement at the bottom. I think this might actually be the article. Is this the article?
Yeah, this part from Tim Pool really hits. Like, he's not just talking theory. Tim Pool is literally showing how these news outlets protect each other by pointing fingers in a circle. One lies, the other repeats it, and suddenly it's truth. I don't know about you guys, but Tim Pool is exposing how broken the system really is. So yeah, Tim Pool is right. It's nearly impossible for regular people, or even big names like Trump, to fight back.
So you see the first quote right there in the second paragraph. A couple of weeks ago, I was watching a few people fighting on the street in Washington. They stop it. I could taste it. They stop the quote. The next up, you'll notice the next several hundred words are just old news nobody wants to reread. You then scroll to the bottom and see the conclusion. Look how far down you got the conclusion. Somewhere deep in my brain, an alarm went off. This isn't good for me. The reason is these news organizations know the percentage to which people will read these articles. I believe there's a possibility this is intentionally formatted in such a strange way to break apart Tucker Carlson's quotes, put old news in between, so that the average person stops reading and says, I already know this, and leaves.
Yeah, this is honestly genius from Tim Pool. He's showing how CNN literally designs articles to trick you. They front load it with a bad quote from Tucker Carlson, bury the full context way at the bottom, and count on you giving up halfway. Tim Pool is laying out exactly how they lie without technically lying. So, I mean, yeah, Tim Pool just exposed one of the sneakiest tricks in the media playbook.
The only impression in their mind, Tucker Carlson cheered for the death of an individual. This is how the media gets away with lying, but you can't sue them over it. Like, look what Media Matter said about me. Tim Pool says evil people are ruling the world or whatever. Yeah, if I went to Greta Thunberg and said, do you think oil companies are in control of the world? She'd say, absolutely. They have politicians. Do you think they're evil? Yes, of course they are. Okay. But you see how they do it? Secretly controlling the world.
That's the media for you.
They are factual but not truthful.
Patrick Bet David and Tim Pool didn't just talk. They exposed everything. Patrick Bet David kept calling out the double standards in the media, and Patrick Bet David wasn't afraid to ask why the woke networks never get held accountable. At the same time, Tim Pool broke down exactly how the media creates fake headlines, spreads lies, and hides behind each other to avoid lawsuits. Tim Pool showed how even when they're factual, they're not actually telling the truth. That's why Patrick Bet David and Tim Pool are so dangerous to the woke left, because Patrick Bet David and Tim Pool are actually telling people what's really going on. And honestly, Patrick Bet David and Tim Pool are two of the only voices out there saying what we're all thinking.